As a business owner, you've got a lot more flexibility with finance. Separate your personal and business expenses.
Mat Fisk, property investor and founder of Engine Room Gyms, shares with us how he increased his borrowing power as a business owner.
Banks want to see 1 to 2 years of good financials.
As he opens up some of the key tips that he used to build a 16-strong rental portfolio. Sounds like your borrowing power could just skyrocket.
It should go up a fair bit. Banks don't assess the loan from what you pay yourself. It's important having a buffer, but for me, the priority is property. Check with your broker, but from my experience, they want to go off the...
If you're wanting to get into property investing or wanting to continue to build your portfolio as a business owner in Australia, this is going to be an episode you're going to want to listen to closely. My name's Todd Sloan. This is the Pizza and Property Podcast, and you're listening to my chat with Mat Fisk. Matty Fisk, how you going, man?
Going good, Todd. Thanks for having us. It's our first one in person. We've done a few before, but we're down here in the studio.
Yeah, man. It's actually good to be sitting across from each other, and even better to be open up this topic, which I feel that you're very qualified to speak on, maybe not from the lending perspective, but from the runs on the board personal perspective. As a successful business owner yourself, just opened up your third
gym it is.
And also grown an incredible portfolio of 14 rentals, 15 rentals?
16.
My mistake. 16 rentals. When it comes to being a business owner and building a portfolio, I've talked to so many people that, and being a business owner myself, I understand this, is you have your eyes so firmly on the prize of running the business because the buck stops with you that it's easy to maybe neglect a little bit of the portfolio side of things. But then it's even easier to maybe make some choices that are good for the business, but really harm your borrowing power. And this is what I wanted to open up with you today. For anyone that's a business owner that's looking at going, you know what, I want to build a portfolio. Maybe I want that little bit of second income, that extra bit of safety for retirement. You got 5 things on your list that are really going to help people better understand things they should and shouldn't be doing as a business owner. Is there anything you wanted to chat about before we jumped into the list?
Yeah, I will start and say I think property is a better returner than business. I think about the money I've invested into my business. And if I'd invest that into property, it would have been, it would have grown a lot more. So I would have much preferred to have gone straight into property, but ultimately you need a good income to, for your serviceability to buy property. So
hence the business.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, so but you reckon the property's done better for you than the business?
I think it has, yeah, definitely. You think of the capital growth and the cash flow returns and stuff, I definitely think so. The business is on its way there, but I started my business to help my property portfolio for serviceability.
Love it. All right, man. Well, on that note, what's the first cab off the rank?
So first one I've got here, I think about when I started my first business. I transitioned into that business. So instead of just jumping straight into business, I stayed working wages for a few months. And slowly transition into it. So that way I could still have serviceability with the banks and still buy a few properties and obviously make sure the business is feasible, it's going to work. While you're still, getting income from the business, from wages, sorry.
Okay, so your advice around that one is basically, unless you have to, don't jump straight into the business. See if you can start the business in a way that you can keep a PAYG on the side.
Absolutely, yeah. If you can start that up on the side, have someone else run it or run it yourself after hours, I think that's the best way to do it.
And the reason for that is mainly from what the security level of still having the income, or just in the bank size, they're like, you've got this security income, we're not even going to look at this small business you've got off to the side.
I think for the security, so you've got income still coming in. But for me, when I did it, it was to still have that income and satisfy the bank. I still wanted to buy another 1 or 2 properties, and I knew it would take a little bit of time to build my business up. So I didn't want to, wait a year, 2 years for that to happen.
How long did it take out of interest?
I think it was about a year or so.
About a year or so. Okay. Yeah. So otherwise you would have missed out on a year's worth of purchasing.
Yeah. So I'll go into that soon. I got a few dot points here about low doc loans, but I think it took about a year from memory about that.
How many did you purchase in that year?
I think I got 1 or 2 while I was transitioning into business.
Yeah.
And then I might have had a break of 6 months, 12 months or whatever it was. And I think got back into it.
What about number 2, man? What's next on the list?
All right, so number 2, traditionally banks want to see, 1 to 2 years of good financials. Separate your personal and business expenses. I found I was running a lot of my personal expenses through the business, and that made my profitability in the business not look as good. So if you separate them, it's going to make your, I guess, financials look that little bit better for the business, and you'll be able to borrow that little bit sooner or that little bit more.
When you say separate the business and personal, you talking about a wage?
More so, I was put in, I hope the ATO's not listening, lunches and lunches and stuff
You're
through
talking
the
about
business.
Business lunches, though, of course, aren't you, Matt?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Business lunches, fuel, whatever you might think that you can put through the business. If you separate that, spend it through the personal account, it's going to make the profit in the business look that little bit better.
Right. Okay. So you're focusing then more on the actual business itself and the attractiveness for a lender rather than your individual name and the attractiveness for the lender.
So yeah, sacrifice, like you might not have as many tax savings, like your accountant might not put through all the deductibles. For example, I think I didn't put through 100 or 200 grand of deductibles I had for the business. With the goal of making the profitability look that little bit better.
Can you talk a little bit about, for anyone that's not familiar with it, carrying it forward though?
I don't know exactly how they organise all that, but yeah, I think they can carry it forward for 5 years or 3 years or something like that. So we didn't claim that deduction in that year, but yeah, I think the accountant can claim that the next year or the year after.
I don't mean to put you on the spot for a technical accountancy questions. I wasn't like after a technical answer, but it's more so even knowing that that's potentially a possibility.
Yeah, I think they can do that.
Yeah.
I was willing to, I guess, forego that tax deduction, but yeah, I'm pretty sure they can. Yeah, carry it forward.
All right. So what's next on the list, man? Number 3.
Obviously, find a good broker, but chat to them about low doc loans. So as a business owner, you've got a lot more, I guess, flexibility and things you can do with finance. One of them is a low doc loan. So instead of a traditional full doc loan, as a business owner, you can, I guess, self-declare your income with an accountant, and you can get these loans with, I guess, their non-bank lenders a lot easier. So they do normally sort of up the interest rate a little bit, but as a business owner, you can
How much
get
is
that.
a little bit?
It might be 0.5%, 1% or so. But as a business owner, being able to get that loan, it's a lot more beneficial to do that, even though you've got to pay a slightly higher interest rate.
Okay. And so the difference between a low doc loan and a full doc loan, what's your 30-second summation for anyone that's like, what is he talking about?
So a full doc loan is for, I guess, people on wages. You've got to submit your pay slips and all that. So for business owners, I guess a low doc loan, a bank just needs to see the financials of the business, and that's how they determine your income.
And so essentially you're going to be paying a slightly higher interest rate for this. However, all of the hoops, well not all of, a lot of the hoops are removed. You don't need jumping through them all.
Yeah, it's a lot easier. So you can pretty much get in, I think, after 6 months, a year of trading or whatever. I don't think there's a time limit on them. And then you can always refinance the loan later. So you're not stuck at that higher interest rate. I
think that is the key thing to remember, because I've spoken to a few people about this before and they're like, but I don't want to pay like 7.5%, 8.5%. It's like, but you don't have to forever. If you can get into this, pay it for a few years, as long as your trajectory is looking like you could refinance into a traditional lend, then like that's just the cost of doing business.
Absolutely, yeah. It doesn't take long. You can just refinance and get on that sort of better interest rate once your business financials are looking good. You've got the 1 or 2 years, whatever the bank requires. So it's only a temporary thing.
Easy, man. We're getting towards the pointy end. What's number 4?
Yeah, banks don't assess the loan from what you pay yourself. So I've heard of a lot of business owners saying they pay themselves $3,000 a week or whatever they want to do to try and get that income there, the serviceability for the loan. Some banks might allow you to do that, but from my experience, it's the actual business sort of numbers themselves, what the business is making for the year. And that's what the bank will go off more so than what you're paying yourself out of your own business.
So you're saying don't worry about paying yourself 70 grand or 200 grand. It's kind of like if the business is working and profitable, that's what most lenders are really going to be looking at.
Yeah, check with your broker, but from my experience, yeah, that's what I've found. They want to go off the business financials. They wouldn't care less if I paid myself 500 grand a year.
All right, man. Lucky last. What's number 5?
So last one I had here, be very, very considerate of the industry you choose. I guess get familiar with someone else running the same business and the numbers. So for me, I got into gyms because there's a big expense at the start, but then you don't have to buy new equipment for another 5 years, 10 years or whatever it is. So that 4 years in between, that's your, I guess, sweet spot. you've got a lot of profitability there, and I'm hoping it should look pretty good to the banks in that 4-year sort of period.
So you're expecting your serviceability to just keep increasing over the next few years?
Absolutely. I'm really hoping sort of with the business financials at the moment, we should be able to buy a few properties.
Very nice. Okay, man. And I hear that there's a bonus tip.
Absolutely. So I guess it's something I wish I knew when I first started. So my accountant, like really good, wants to minimize tax. But when we set up the business, it was in a trust and my parents went down as beneficiaries. So with them going down as beneficiaries, when we apply for a loan with the bank, the profitability of the, I guess, business is split 3 ways, 33%. So my income then is only 33% of the total, I guess, profit for the business. So, yeah, I wish I knew that a bit sooner and maybe change that.
Is it too late to change that?
I think you can amend it and change it. I haven't yet, but yeah, I think you can go back and amend it.
So if you did amend it, it sounds like your borrowing power could just skyrocket.
Yeah, it should go up a fair bit.
Okay, so what I'm really hearing there is minimize tax, minimize borrowing, maximize tax, which who wants to do that? But if it leads to maximize borrowing, actually, no, I don't know if I'd say maximize tax, but like if minimizing your tax isn't the focus, then you're more open to maximizing borrowing. But if minimizing your tax is the focus, you're probably going to be minimizing your borrowing as well.
I think, yeah, I do need to change it over. Like, yeah, as a business owner, I think you do need to focus on sort of borrowing a little bit more. Like the minimization of tax, it's not that big of a deal.
What do you say to any business owner that's like, I just can't take the risk of property because my business needs me. I need to know that if something happens, I've got capital to put straight into it. What do you say to that?
I think it's important having a buffer, but for me, the priority is property. So although you might have that buffer, I think it's really important to put some money aside to put it into property. It's a long-term play. Business is so up and down. If you can get into property, you're really going to set yourself up for the long term.
Perfect, mate. I'm sure there's a lot of business owners out there that are going to take a lot from this and hopefully start building the portfolio that they've been wanting to. But otherwise, man, Mat Fisk from Engine Room Gyms, thank you so much for jumping on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Absolute pleasure coming down here.